Football is all about rivalries. In fact, the game thrives on it. But there are some feuds that are far worse than others. Today, we're going to be looking at the NFL rivals who hated each other, starting with the duo that tried to keep it as civil as possible, Tom Brady and Terrell Suggs. Sure, the rivalry between the New England Patriots and the Baltimore Ravens is one of the best in the NFL, but the linebacker Terrell Suggs feud with Tom Brady is even more entertaining. Since 2010, Suggs has had beef with Brady over the quarterback's theatrics with referees and his personality. Not to mention, the Patriots have had their fair share of defeats versus the Ravens. Suggs has previously refused to refer to Brady as anything other than he while speaking to the media, even when asked to identify the New England Patriots quarterback. Jeez. But if any defensive player has earned the right to criticize Brady publicly, it could be Suggs. In an interview from 2013, Suggs was pretty candid about his dislike for Tom Brady, describing him as having a smug attitude. Plus, he even added that he never really liked Brady as much as the rest of the world does. Later, he would cast doubt on many of Brady's Super Bowl victories by bringing up the Tuck Rule and Spygate. Brady, always the gentleman, responded to Suggs with class. But if you ask us, his passive-aggressive tone clarified that he was less than pleased.
Just super proud of him and all that he's gone through this year. It's a tough injury that he had and battled all the way back and really committed himself the last 6-8 weeks to prepare himself to play and did it. So it says a lot about who he is.
Next is a feud that kept the viewers on their feet for the longest time, Josh Norman and Odell Beckham Jr. It's become one of the NFL's most exciting rivalries, a pre-game brawl involving multiple Carolina Panthers defenders, including Norman, and practice squad member Marcus Ball, upset Beckham to the point of losing his composure before Week 15's game between the Giants and the Panthers in 2015. Beckham was called for 3 personal fouls and Norman for 2 as they engaged in a heated contest. Beckham finally broke the tension with a devastating helmet-to-helmet smash on Norman. Norman was so furious that he said Beckham lacked maturity. Norman's off-season media appearance was marred further when he was given a picture of Beckham and asked for his one-word reaction. Like the civil man that he is, he just said, "Okay," and left it at that. Subtweeting Norman, Beckham said, "That boy should thank me for all I've done for you. You're welcome though, LOL."
You know, and I've learned it all throughout my life, you know, always second man gets called, always that. It's just unfortunate. You know, you go back and watch the film tomorrow and you learn from it.
Then, in a lengthy interview with ESPN, the magazine, Norman reiterated his previous comments about how much he dislikes Beckham and said that he wasn't alone in this. He added that people no longer respect Beckham because of his temper outbursts, but things have never smoothed out between these two. In fact, there was a point when things got so bad, Norman said that all the praise Beckham gets goes straight to his head. Yikes! Next up is a rivalry between 2 of the dirtiest players out there, Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Rodgers. Ndamukong Suh, a defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, is widely hated and dreaded by his opponents due to his immense physical talent, towering stature, and the tendency for what is often seen as a dirty play. Just ask Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers or his former offensive guard Evan Dietrich Smith about the time Suh jumped on Rodgers during their Week 17 meeting. Things got so bad that he was almost suspended before the ban was lifted on appeal.
We had a couple conversions, and PT had a nice catch and run for us, and we just, did what we had to do there, getting 7 points. That was a good drive for us. We wanted to get back in the game and tie it up.
So, what happened was that Suh stomped on Dietrich Smith's arm in a game in 2011 and was then removed and punished for 2 games. But this should not come as a surprise, because Suh has stepped on an opponent's crotch before. But back in the 1990s, it was just called football. Ouch! Now that must have hurt. I can't imagine him ever getting over that one. Suh dominated a poll of NFL players held by Sporting News in 2011 to determine who was the league's dirtiest player. Well, if you step on people's crotches and arms, that was a title you'd never have to fight for. But keeping all the trash talk and physical abuse aside, he always had the skills to prove his haters wrong. In fact, soon after in 2012, he successfully defended his championship. And that, of course, gave him all the more reason to tease Rodgers. After sacking Green Bay backup quarterback Matt Flynn in the same game that the Lions enabled Flynn to throw 6 touchdown passes, Sue mocked Rodgers by imitating the quarterback's characteristic celebration.
In this league, I was a different type of player. I was outspoken.
Big, strong, fast?
and I think I just refused to kind of play a different way and kind of play with the rules.
That man definitely knows how to hold a grudge. Anyway, it looks like they're finally over it now. In fact, Sue has even mentioned to the media once that he's learned his lesson and won't be stopping anytime soon. Up next is one of the most talked about rivalries of all time, Steve Smith and Aqib Talib. It was simply another game in 2013, but tensions rapidly flared up between Smith and Talib. Even after the whistle blew, the two continued to argue, and we can only speculate as to what was said. Even after the game was over, the animosity between Smith and Talib continued. I say this because we all saw how Smith wore a shirt with the words, "Ice up, son," after Talib exited the game with an injury. Yikes, that was really one of the coldest burns we've ever seen. Moving on, speaking of burns, here's another rivalry that came with a lot of trash talk, Jay Cutler and Philip Rivers. It would be an understatement to say that Philip Rivers and Jay Cutler aren't the greatest of buddies. When Cutler was still with the Broncos, the two young quarterbacks met twice a year, and the games were always a lot of fun to watch. After a botched fourth down effort in a game broadcast nationally in December 2007, Rivers could be seen yelling at Cutler. When talking about Rivers, the former Vanderbilt star said, "I'll be honest about it, I don't like him," while a source close to the Chargers has blamed Cutler for the tension.
Yeah, no disrespect, but I think it can become just cliche. If you're 38 and you throw a bunch of interceptions, that's what they're going to say. You can't throw it anymore, can't throw the out, can't throw this, arm strength. And I almost laugh at it because I want to go, well, let's sit down and watch the.
Someone close to Philip said that Cutler was the one who grabbed his crotch and made inappropriate comments. And they even added that the entire thing started because of Jay. The rivalry has lost some of its sparkle now that Cutler is playing in Chicago, but the hostility is just as strong as ever. But if you think this was the most hostile, wait till you take a look at the next duo, Andre Johnson and Cortland Finnegan. Finnegan is widely regarded as not just one of the NFL's most gifted defensive backs, but he was also one of the league's dirtiest. In fact, his specialties seem to be cheap shots and harsh play that might injure other players. Two of Finnegan's fines from previous NFL seasons were for illegal hits. Later on, he tossed Steve Smith, a player with the New York Giants, to the ground by his helmet. He also threw a punch at Chris Cooper of the Denver Broncos, knocking Cooper's helmet off, so you see no one is safe from his wrath. There was, however, one Sunday night game in which Finnegan repeatedly poked and punched Johnson. Unlike his other opponents, Andre has had enough of the game's heat late in the fourth. When the fight was broken up, he had already taken Finnegan's helmet off, thrown him to the ground, and delivered at least 2 good blows. Finnegan continued to yell and cheer at Johnson and the Texan supporters after he and Johnson were both removed from the game.
I never really put too much thought into what everybody else thinks. But, to achieve this accomplishment.
It's been a chaotic ride for the two ever since. And those were some of the most heated NFL rivalries. Which one did you think was the worst? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.